The Marvel Universe has a wealth of incredibly powerful, larger-than-life characters to choose from. A few, however, stand head and shoulders above the rest. Their powers are incalculable and far beyond comprehension. There are few foods more likable, well-rounded, and versatile than an omelet. Here is our list of the most powerful characters in the entire Marvel comic book universe. 15. Vulcan. Emperor Vulcan, also known as Gabriel Summers, the brother of Scott Summers, is an Omega-level mutant who has the ability to manipulate all forms of energy, including magic, at will. Once the Emperor of the Sheer Empire, Vulcan has even fought against the X-Men, Inhumans and Starjammers simultaneously. You can eat them morning, noon, or night. Their star ingredient, egg, obviously, makes them a fantastic source of protein. According to his creator, Ed Brubaker, Vulcan has control over 7 elements: fire, earth, electricity, wind, water, darkness, and light. 14. Toss in some cheese, veggies, and roasted potatoes, and you've covered nearly all your nutritional bases. In other words, it's hard to go wrong with this one-pan wonder. Scar, the son of the Hulk in an alternate reality, Scar possesses even greater strength than his father. With a single punch, he once cracked the armor of the Juggernaut and sent him into the outer atmosphere. Where you can go wrong, though, is in the preparation of this delicious dish. Suffice it to say, there are plenty of mistakes to be made when cooking omelets, and we're all guilty of making them, probably more than we'd care to admit. Happily, there are far more cunning culinary talents in the world who are willing to share their tried-and-true tricks with the rest of us. He has also survived falls from outer space and has a healing factor superior to Wolverine. 13. Odin, the father of Thor and the strongest of all Asgardians, is an immortal that can manipulate magic for a variety of effects. The bad news is that mastering omelet making isn't as simple as tossing a few eggs in a skillet and hoping for the best. It takes a bit of precision. Still, we can all agree that the pursuit of a perfect omelet is a worthy endeavor, yeah? Plus, if you're ever hosting a party and in a pinch for food, showing off your newfound omelet skills will undoubtedly impress your hungry guests. But first, to get on the path towards omelet perfection, you'll need to know the biggest mistakes everyone makes when cooking them. Because, hey, it helps to know what not to do, right? You're using the wrong size pan. You've pulled your ingredients out of the fridge and lined them up on the countertop like good little soldiers. He also has the ability to absorb the powers of all the Asgardians into himself to greatly augment his already formidable powers. 12. Then you reach for your trusty frying pan, which, let's be honest, is probably your favorite because it's the only one in reach. It might be an oversized wok-style pan, or perhaps the time-worn iron skillet your grandma gave you. Hercules, over 3,000 years old, Hercules, the son of Zeus, is considered the physically strongest character in the entire Marvel Universe. But here's the hitch: if it isn't the right size, you're setting yourself up for failure. Ask any chef, and you'll find a pretty tight consensus that crafting the perfect omelet starts with the right number of eggs and the right size frying pan, insists kitchen accessory company Whiskware. The issue, per the company, is that using too large of a pan leads to a paper-thin omelet. He is stronger than both Thor and Hulk, and once pulled the entire island of Manhattan, which weighed 99 billion tons. Aside from his great strength, Hercules is able to withstand cosmic blasts from Nova and is able to survive in space unaided. 11. Grandmaster. The Grandmaster is an eternal, ancient being that cannot die, has supernatural physical characteristics and the ability to bring the dead back to life. He is also vastly intelligent and powerful. 10. To avoid winding up with a wimpy dish, Whiskware recommends sticking with a 7 to 8 inch frying pan. So, while size may not matter everywhere, it kinda does when you're cooking omelets. Keep that in mind and grab a pan that will live up to your expectations. You're not separating the whites. Raise your hand if you had no idea you were supposed to separate your egg whites out when making an omelet. Galactus, known as the Devourer of Worlds, Galactus eats entire planets and has unlimited cosmic power and knowledge. Asterisk raises hand, asterisk. Well, count us today years old when we finally learn the truth, because this is reportedly an important step to achieving nirvana in omelet form. To make a super fluffy, souffled omelet, you need to give the egg whites some proper attention. Whip the whites with a pinch of salt until stiff peaks form and incorporate half of the mixture into the yolks with a whisk.
Gently fold in the rest of the whites, spread into a pan, top with shredded cheese, cover, and cook for 3 minutes, suggests Lifehacker's food and beverage editor Claire Lower. The incredible egg, the spokes site for the humble egg itself, explains the logic behind this separation. Fat from egg yolk will prevent egg whites from beating properly. He also possesses technology that works with his biology and is perceived as the species of whoever is looking at him. When separating eggs, take care that no yolk gets in the whites. The site even goes so far as to suggest you should separate each egg white into a cup or small bowl before dropping it into the mixer bowl. Should you get even a speck of yolk in a white, toss it. Who knew? You're getting carried away with toppings. Let us preface this by saying it's your life, you do you. For example, a human would see him in human form. 9. Magus, not to be confused by his son, Adam Warlock. Magus' power is comparable to that of Galactus. He can become virtually any substance, any size, shape and color, enhanced shape-shifting. Having said that, there are times when we can benefit from the expertise of others, and cooking omelets is one such time. He is immortal and can also teleport, but his powers tend to fluctuate based on the form he takes. At his most powerful, he's able to split a star in two. 8. Let food writer Karen Liu serve as a cautionary tale. Mikoboshi, the Japanese god of evil and chaos, is an abstract being greater than Odin. His powers include immortality, reality manipulation, stealth, strength, healing, endurance, shape-shifting, and more. 7. Sidorak is a powerful deity and possibly the strongest magical being in all of the Marvel Universe. He is often the source of the elite magicians of the universe, including Doctor Strange. Once upon a time, he couldn't make an omelet without it devolving into a sort of strange egg stir-fry. The culprit. He was overzealous when it came time to add the toppings. In a 2014 article for the Food Network, though, Liu revealed he finally kicked his too many toppings habit. He is omnipotent within his crimson cosmos. 6. Phoenix Force is a powerful cosmic entity and the prime universal force of life that takes on various hosts, most frequently Jean Grey, Rachel Grey, Emma Frost and even Professor X. He elaborated that his best tip for omelet success is only using up to 3 toppings at 1/3 cup each or 1/2 cup if you're only using 2 toppings. His prior method of tossing in anything in the fridge that struck his fancy turned out to be a major saboteur. Loading your omelet with too much stuff would result in the egg ripping and becoming more of a scramble, he explained. Before you start whipping up your next omelet, pump the brakes. Liu has one more piece of advice about toppings: cook them accordingly. In other words, size up which take longer to cook than others. Ingredients like mushrooms, onion, bacon, broccoli, bell peppers, and sauté them before you start your eggs. I've had many hotel omelets when I'd bite into the eggs and taste raw mushrooms in the center. Don't do that, Liu advised. You're not moving fast enough unless you're partaking of actual bitters. The term bitter isn't exactly one you want thrown about when describing your culinary creations. It single-handedly defeated Galactus. It can absorb energy, including the life force of a being or the energy of a sun. 5. Franklin Richards, one of the rare Omega-level mutants. Franklin Richards, the son of Reed Richards and Sue Storm, has the ability to warp reality and control the fundamental forces of the universe. Yet, according to Allrecipes, that could very well be the verdict should someone taste an omelet that's unhurried. What's an unhurried omelet, you ask? Well, to be clear, that's anthropomorphizing. The only one not hurrying here is you, and it's quite likely going to earn you the opposite of a rave review in the kitchen. While it may be tempting to take your sweet time cooking the eggs that will serve as your omelet's base, doing so is a disservice. It is said that his power equals that of the Celestials. He first appeared in Fantastic Four Annual No. 6, 1968, and is quite possibly the strongest mutant to ever exist. 4. Once the heat on your stove is really cranking, it's time for you to get hot, too. The key, though, is to cook eggs quickly but gently, Allrecipes explains. If the omelet gets too browned, it can taste a little bitter. And, come on, a bitter omelet sounds anything but appetizing. Don't stress if you're unsure how to best cook eggs both rapidly and gently, there's a trick to it that's pleasantly simple. Eternity, first appearing in Strange Tales No. 138, Eternity, the twin brother of infinity and the sibling of death and oblivion, is the very embodiment of time. Says Allrecipes, tilt the pan, and with a spatula, lift up the omelet at the edge, allowing the raw egg to run underneath. Greater than Galactus, he can manipulate space, time, and reality. 3. This technique serves 2 purposes. 1. The omelet cooks faster without too much browning when you run the raw egg off the top. 2. It creates subtle layers of creamy fluffiness. You're cracking too many eggs. What's that old idiom? 2 eggs are better than 1. Okay, so maybe that's not quite how the expression goes. However, if you ask any omelet cooking expert, they'll likely deliver a similar line. Take, for example, Lacey Bear, the author at A Sweet Pea Chef. Living Tribunal created by Stan Lee, Marie Severin and Herb Trimpe. The Living Tribunal is so powerful that even Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet dares not to engage him in combat. His power is absolutely limitless and he is able to erase entire realities from existence. In her pursuit to discover the perfect egg-to-topping ratio, she pinpointed what she considers to be the ideal number of eggs to use in an omelette. I don't recommend trying to make a big omelette and then split it in 2 or 3 or 4. Bear writes on her blog. However, the Living Tribunal has died fighting Biander before. 2. We all want to cut breakfast prepping time in half, or lunch and dinner time for that matter, but making a big omelette and splitting it is not a good idea. Biander, a near-omnipotent and vastly powerful entity, Biander first appeared in Secret Wars No. 1. You will end up with scrambled eggs instead of an omelette because flipping a huge omelette is not easy. Not mention, Bear points out, the more eggs you use the more likely it is that some of those eggs will end up undercooked. Her advice: start with 2 eggs. You can always add another egg white if you want to up your protein intake. Bear notes that you can, of course, crack a 3rd egg if you're feeling ravenous. However, any more than 3 is overkill and merits a second omelette. You're foregoing fresh ingredients. Who among us hasn't haphazardly whipped up an omelette using whatever ingredients we have on hand in the fridge? Whether it's the last few eggs that have been waning in the carton or some leftover steamed broccoli, you can't beat readily available ingredients for convenience. He is so strong that all the Marvel abstracts, celestials, supreme cosmic beings, and the Living Tribunal are at his mercy. He is second only to One Above All. 1. One Above All. One Above All, who first appeared in Doctor Strange No. 13, is the most powerful and the most mysterious character in the Marvel multiverse. He is believed to represent the creators of Marvel and has taken the form of Jack Kirby. The One Above All is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Other lists worth reading. But just because you have them on hand doesn't mean they're going to give you the best omelette experience you could have. In fact, Southern Living believes, the fresher, the better, should be your rule of thumb when it comes to making a killer omelette. Fresh eggs make a world of difference when it comes to this breakfast staple, the outlet insists. Fortunately, simple clues can tell you just how fresh your eggs are. If you're an avid farmer's market shopper, you'll be able to see the color difference in straight from the farm eggs compared to store-bought ones. Fresh, local eggs usually have vibrant, yellow-orange yolks, and your omelette will be much tastier and colorful because of it. The same logic applies to your omelet's fillings and toppings as well, so be sure to reach for those farm-fresh eggs and fresh produce next time an omelette craving hits. You're tossing everything in the pan too early. Where Alton Brown leads, we shall follow. So when the Good Eats creator / Iron Chef America commentator / best-selling cookbook author says we're messing up an important part of the omelette making process, we take note. Not surprisingly, Brown is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to whipping up this delectable dish, but it's one particular piece of advice he offers that is low-key brilliant. Heat your pan empty for a few minutes before adding the butter, Brown advised as part of a recipe contribution for Food Network magazine. Even a nonstick surface is pocked with microscopic pores that eggs can fill and grab hold of. Heat expands the metal, squeezing these openings shut. Mind blown, right? In case you're curious, as you should be in the name of a good omelette, Brown doesn't suggest spending an inordinate amount of time waiting for the pan to heat up. This extra, yet super helpful step will only set you back 2 to 3 minutes, during which time you should have your sauté pan over medium to high heat. You'll also need to set aside 10 seconds after you begin cooking the eggs to let your omelette sit untouched to develop a proper outer crust. But when all is said and done, promised Brown, your patience will be rewarded. You're using the wrong butter. To some of us, butter is butter is butter. It's all good and we'll take extra, please and thank you.
However, and this may sound like sacrilege, there is such a thing as the wrong butter. Such is apparently the case when it comes to the butter you choose when you make an omelette. Domestic goddess Martha Stewart deemed it so. In a 1997 issue of Martha Stewart Living, the Maven made it clear that certain types of butter are undesirable for omelets because they're prone to burning. Use clarified butter, which does not burn as quickly as salted or unsalted butter, said Stewart. If you do use regular butter, watch carefully to keep it from burning. Just think of clarified butter as liquid gold. As in, not only is it worth its weight in gold in the culinary world, but it quite literally looks like the molten precious metal, too. Although you're likely most familiar with seeing it used as a dipping sauce for lobster and other high-priced crustaceans, clarified butter boasts tons of versatility in the kitchen due to its very high smoke point, and that's why this beautiful butterfat, sans milk solids, is ideal for making omelets. You're cooking it too long. An omelet's most winning trait, besides taste, of course, could arguably be that it's relatively quick and easy to create. Whether you were hungry before you started making it, or the smell of it cooking kicked your hunger into overdrive, you're always grateful that you can churn out an omelet in next to no time. But here's the thing, if you really want it to be the best omelet it can be, you're going to need to practice a bit of restraint. Most of us presumably cook an omelet until the eggs are cooked all the way through. And while this seems like a sound approach, BBC Food recommends a different route. For the site, you should remove the pan from the heat, while the egg is still slightly runny in the middle. If you're now worried about foodborne illnesses like salmonella that come from eating something undercooked, don't be. Per BBC Food, the residual heat will cook the egg and spinach. Residual heat, FTW. You're not thinking outside the box when you slide into a booth at IHOP and order an omelet. You know that what comes out of that kitchen is going to be a light as air blanket of eggs hugging cheese and other delicious fillings. On more than one occasion, you may even have wondered how they managed to make their omelets so gosh darn fluffy. Well, friends, as you suspected, IHOP has a secret ingredient. What you probably didn't expect is that their secret ingredient is pancake batter. By adding a small amount of pancake batter to its eggs, IHOP accomplishes a few things, the Daily Mail revealed. 1. It adds some structure to the eggs, making them a little more sturdy and filling. 2. The extra moisture leads to a fluffier overall product. And 3. It adds just the slightest amount of tasty pancake flavor to the mix. This means that somewhere along the way, someone in IHOP's kitchen did some serious outside of the box, or better yet, inside of the pancake box, thinking when cooking an omelet, and the result is a dish that is delightful and distinctive in equal measure. Moral of the story? Don't be afraid to experiment while endeavoring to create the perfect omelet, because you might just stumble upon your own very special star ingredient. You're prepping the eggs wrong. The culinary world considers Jacques Pepin a big deal, and for good reason. In addition to being an iconic cooking show host in his own right, the legendary French chef rubbed elbows with the likes of Julia Child. So, in 2013 when BuzzFeed wanted a demonstration of how to make the perfect omelet, of course they tapped Pepin. Right out of the gate, things got interesting. After quickly walking readers through the right size skillet 8 inches and fiends herbs, chives, parsley, tarragon and chervil, Pepin stressed the importance of cracking eggs correctly. As in, oops, we've all been cracking eggs wrong all along. The secret, per Pepin, is cracking your eggs on a surface such as the counter. When you crack on the bowl, the shell gets pushed inside the egg, not good, explained Pepin. And that's not all. Once you've cracked the eggs correctly, you should be taking another egg prep step that you've likely been overlooking. Before you whisk the eggs, pierce the yolks with a fork. This makes it easier to blend everything together. This is crucial, because after seasoning the eggs with salt and pepper, you must whisk them with the other ingredients vigorously. Don't go slowly here, Pepin cautioned. Your eggs need to be extremely well blended before the omelet cooking can begin. And here we've just been cracking our eggs on the bowl and plowing forward. Tisk, tisk. You're overcomplicating things. Betcha didn't realize so much went into making an omelet, huh? Sure, cooking an omelet is essentially an art form. But let it be said that getting too lost in the inner workings of making an omelet can have effects just as disastrous as ignoring all of the advice catalogued here.
The Pioneer Woman's blog said as much, so it must be true. In an article on Drummond's massively popular site in 2016, food blogger Erica Lee confessed that her first few attempts at making omelets turned out to be a disaster. She could pinpoint her main issues easily enough: too much milk in her eggs, too much filling, and trying to make her omelets look fancy enough for a diner table. Yet, it took her a hot minute to connect the dots. I finally realized that I was overcomplicating things. So I simplified my process, and suddenly my omelet game improved immensely, she said. Lee's pared down but winning method entails 2 eggs with a little salt, well whisked with a fork, a decent gob of butter, because omelets are thirsty things, a handful of cheese paired with a few pre-cooked fillings like mushroom and bacon, and a carefully timed fold. That's pretty much it. The moral of the story? When in doubt, keep it simple.